Hey everyone, Brando here.
And Mike.
And we host the Game Addicts Podcast,
a show about modern and retro video games
that we play and collect.
Now, here's some vital information for you.
Our podcast is found on podcast services around the globe, such as iTunes,
Podbean,
Stitcher Radio,
and YouTube.
Check us out every Thursday for a new episode.
But wait,
there's more. If you pledge to the Journey into Comics Network Patreon, you get early access to the audio version of the show up to a week early.
So what are you waiting for?
It's time to level up and check out the Game Addicts Podcast today. The following is a Journey into Comics Network production.
Hey, this is Josh Richmond, and you are listening to the Voice of Survival podcast, exclusively on the Journey into Comics Network.
You're listening to the Voice of Survival podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, your host, Nate Phillips.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? As the intro said, this is the Voice of Survival podcast. I'm your host, Nate. Today it is episode 9 of my show. Last week we had the little weird Insepticast retrospective. Today I have a guest. As always, you guys know I like to do a little bit of an introduction, welcome my guest by way of telling you how I met this person. Strangely enough, of all the people who have been on my show, I feel like I maybe know this guest the least, which makes today's episode extraordinary, because I'm going to be learning so many new things about someone who I consider a friend. I've got some really cool stories with this person. So I'll take you back to March 4th of 2017. It's really strange because I feel like from March 4th, 2017 to here we are December 1st of 2017, I feel like I've lived 20 million lives. I think that's the kind of the musician's call. You're on the road, you're in different cities, you're playing different shows with different bands. There's no consistency. But sometimes there is. Sometimes you get this luck where the cool people tend to permeate around you. And you just find your way into these situations where you know certain bands. They're just like, you're not even really your tour buddies, but just like, if we so happen to end up on the same show, we know it's going to be a great time no matter what. Well, to go back to March 4th, I didn't know what kind of time it was going to be. We were playing a new venue. Walk Among Us was going to be playing Underground Lounge. This show was being put on by somebody from Milwaukee who I didn't even know. They reached out, they were interested, and I was like, sure. So there were a couple other bands on the card. I think it was like Billy Dreamer and Gremlins and So Far So Bad and Walk Among Us, and then also this band whose name in and of itself was so clever. I started giggling as soon as I saw the card because it was AUFKI, and I was like, how in the fuck do you say that one? So I was like, okay, hold on, let me just take a second. Hooked on phonics, this shit. Auf Ki. Oh, I get it, those clever sons of bitches. Okay, I'm really looking forward to the Auf Ki set now. Well, what was in store for me was something I wasn't expecting, because of all the bands we played with that night, to me, my favorite and most memorable band was Auf Ki. And today, on the Voice of Survival, I have Conner Pech-Kortbein from the band. He is their lead singer and lead guitar player, I guess you'd say. Guitarist. You're one of two now?
Yeah.
Okay, so how's it going, man? Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks. Fantastic. Yeah, glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad to have you on today. So to go back to March 4th and kind of wrap that story up, I don't want to just leave you guys hanging. We saw Auf Ki. They were great. Most memorable act of the night. It was chilly that night. Fast forward a little bit, we're in August. It's like August 18th, I think. And our first time ever playing in Milwaukee. And who plays right the fuck before us? Auf Ki. And it was amazing to see you guys. And things had changed so much. Ryan had left the drums, and he was now playing guitar. And you had this new guy on drums.
Yeah, that was one of the...
How did that all happen?
Yeah.
From March to... How did that change happen? When did you guys decide like Ryan should really just pick up a guitar and do it that way?
Well, it's interesting. No, always trying to, adapt and evolve and kind of explore new aspects of the sound. And we recorded the album. We liked the way that it sounded, but we were looking to grow and kind of add some more depth to our music, some diversity. And so we experimented with maybe adding a second guitarist, but we couldn't really find a second guitarist or anything like that. It was actually Ryan's idea. He's like, hey, I've been practicing and stuff. I'd like to move up to maybe try guitar or something if we could, if that's possible. Otherwise, I don't know a ton about drums. He hadn't been playing drums. There was a huge time gap between when he used to play drums and when he joined the band. So he was, doing a fantastic job, but he's like, well, maybe we could find somebody else. So we auditioned a few people, and we ran into Logan, the current drummer, and he fit the bill. He was willing, able, very talented guy, and since then Ryan moved to guitar, and I think it's really brought us to a new level.
It definitely brings you guys to a new level, because when Ryan was on the drums, one thing I could say is you were trying to have all the fun by yourself. And Alan is a good bass player, don't get me wrong, but there's just sometimes there's a certain vibe with certain members of the band. I feel like you and Ryan are he's like your, like, not legitimately older brother, but kinda, if that makes any sense. And just from an outsider's perspective, So having the dynamic of him coming up front now, and we're going to get into this part 3 because we actually play with you guys yet again this year in October at the place we played at in March. We went back to Underground Lounge. We had a show. Turnout was kind of sucky, not really anybody's fault, but it was a great show. You guys performed phenomenally as always, and I actually threw you some dinero and picked up this amazing CD, No One Eats the Shark.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, do you dig it? It's good. It's a good album, man. I'm pretty proud of it.
Okay, so I have this weird thing that if you're a band that I play with and I genuinely like you, I might become not starstruck is not the right word, but I listen to albums until I wear them out. Mm-hmm. So the Auf Ki album, No One Eats the Shark, has not left my CD player since we played with you guys over a month ago. I listen to it pretty much anywhere I'm going.
Wow, I'm flattered. That's fantastic. Yeah, no, I like it. It's the songs are nice and fast. They're not crazy long. It's easy to, you don't get sick of them, kind of type of thing. It's very, very, very catchy. It's fun music too.
Would you guys?
I enjoy playing it. It's fun to watch, I think. Yeah.
Oh, it is fun to watch. You guys have such a blast on stage, and that's what I was going to say. Is your guys' on stage antics? The three of you now. Between Alan, yourself, and Ryan, the dynamic there is so cool because you guys are kind of playing off each other while also writing and playing these songs. And the really cool thing about this is every song on this album is a little different. Like, everything is just like, you guys don't have, like, you don't lock into we're only doing a specific style of pop punk sound and just hammer that home. There's like rock kind of guitar on this and some kind of almost country guitar, and then it picks up. I mean, you guys take elements from all kinds of music to shape your style, and I personally really love that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've always been the dynamic of the band is pretty unique. We've got a lot of, like, Ryan and Alan are older than I am, and Logan and I are closer in age. So we each have our different tastes and preferences in music. And I think that breeds a really unique style, and it creates something more enjoyable to the listener. It's not just cookie cutter, something you've heard 1,000 times before. It's a unique blend, a fusion of different music, and that's what I'm about.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into this, because really we've just kind of been riffing about your band, and this could be a nice little plug for, hey, everybody, you should really go check out Auf Ki. They're, like, genuinely awesome, from Appleton, Wisconsin, if I'm right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I still remembered. So let's actually rewind the clocks to where it all starts for you. And I have to know, really, where does music begin for you? Like, what's the first band that kind of gets you into music? Where do you find your love to play guitar? I'm sure this story is going to be one that is beautifully told and kind of long, but I want to know where it all starts for you.
Yeah, it's rather interesting. So I've got some older brothers, and my oldest brother Carrie, being the oldest of my brothers, you always look up to your older family members, regardless. So when I was in like elementary school and stuff, he would have been in early high school in the early 2000s, late 90s, basically. So when like the post Nirvana kind of like punk mainstream-ish genre was going on, a lot of like instrumental rock music type stuff was going on. So he kind of introduced me, got me into alternative music, if you will, and so that was really my lead into it. One of the first bands that I personally like grew attached to, which maybe in hindsight is a little embarrassing to say now, but I was a huge Offspring fan.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, personally, I'm not a huge fan of their newer stuff now that they're, they've changed their style a little bit, which is fine because as a musician you grow. But yeah, no, I fell in love with Smash and Ixnay on the Hombre. I just, as soon as I heard those songs, they were catchy, they were simple. A lot of them have a deeper meaning that you could relate to. It was just that's really what got me into music in general and listening to music. And then from there, it was I fell into the pit of ska. That's where I went.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, huge ska fan. Still am to this day. But it went from the Offspring into like Real Big Fish was my gateway into like the music world. After I dipped my toe in.
I pegged you for a mighty Boss Tones guy.
I do appreciate some Boss Tones. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. Real Big Fish always did it for me. The pinnacle for me was Streetlight Manifesto. That was what really it inspired me to elevate my level of musicianship. They're fantastic musicians, all of them in Streetlight Manifesto.
So does that start you down the path of playing an instrument, or where does that come in? Because music, I know as a kid, I went and had I became a bell player in the school band, but was that like your first taste into music, or was it nothing and then all of a sudden you were wanting to play guitar from all these ska and punk bands you're listening to, or?
No, not at all, actually. I had kind of had to be talked into it. When middle school rolled around, I joined band because that's what everyone else in my family had done. So I tried that out. I played saxophone and I loved it. I was super into it, liking ska and everything. It was a good fit for me. And then from there, the band director, the guy that taught me saxophone, also was into like folk music and he played guitar. So he offered to teach me guitar after school for some ridiculously inexpensive amount of money, basically just to like hang out and play guitar, I think was his motive. And so he talked to my parents about it, and I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. I guess I'll give it a try. Why not? And as soon as I started playing with him, I fell in love with it. He was into like folk music, and I learned so much from him. And really, the love and appreciation of playing music and creating new sounds and harmonies and blending everything together is what I learned from him. Mr. Baird, Colin Baird, he was a fantastic guy. Really helped me a lot.
So the question I have from this is going to kind of go back with that teacher that you were just speaking about. Does he know what you've got going on in your life now? Do you guys communicate still? I feel like sometimes people who are on our musical journeys get kind of lost along the way, regardless of if we really mean for that to happen.
Yeah, no, definitely. I do not keep in touch with, not like I should. Obviously we're friends on Facebook, but that means nothing in this day and age. So no, I talk to him once in a while. He knows that I'm in a band and stuff. I don't know if he's heard the album, to be honest.
Oh, he should.
He should. I meant to mail him one as soon as we finished recording. I had this dream that I would mail one to him with a letter, and all that, and I never did. And I always kind of regretted that. But maybe I still will.
Hey,
there's still time.
There is tons of time left. So he talks you into playing guitar. You're learning your appreciation for music. You play saxophone. Maybe not any Careless Whisper or anything like that. Did you play Careless Whisper?
No, not that I remember.
Okay,
no,
good.
I don't think so.
Yeah, by Wham.
Yeah.
So, are those the only two instruments you're proficient in, not including the fact that you're also the singer of the band, which we're going to get into in a minute, because I'm interested in knowing how that blossomed for you.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, that was a whole different story. But no, after being in band and playing guitar, taking lessons from him, I somehow conned my way into also being in chorus. We had I couldn't sing. I still actually really can't sing that well, but I never took lessons. I played bass for the swing choir because that's where all the girls were, and also it was easier than being in band. So I was like, oh, well, this is a no-brainer here. So I somehow talked my way into that because it was similar. It's like guitar, but, theoretically easier because it had less strings. That's how I looked at it at the time.
Yeah, that's kind of the reverse of me. I
hindsight's-
learned bass first and then went to guitar. So,
Yeah, that makes more sense. That would probably make you a better guitar player. I was not a great bass player, honestly. I did a lot of faking, but I managed through that, and I've played since, and I do enjoy bass. It's got a whole different dynamic. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with bass.
You are playing so many different styles of music. You're kind of blowing my mind right now. You started with folk and ska and punk, and now you're telling me you did jazz and played swing bass for This is amazing. I'm learning so much. So you're doing that, and that led you to do the choir, or?
No, that basically got me in the door of playing bass. Basically, is what that came down to, and then also spending more time with my teachers because both of them they were the music department. We only had two, a chorus director and a band director, and so spending more time with them. And obviously the band director had taught me guitar, so he had this idea that after school we would set up. He would set up like a band. To play talent shows and stuff like that, and just kind of to bring a new aspect to the music department. So he actually started the first band I was ever in.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was kind of School of Rock-esque before that even came out. It was very cool.
Okay, so what's that like, doing a band with your teacher? Are you playing some of the hits he likes? Does everybody kind of have an open opinion to what you're playing? Did you guys ever play out? I feel like there are so many questions just from that.
Yeah, no, we were called, the name escapes me. Crestfallen. Yep,
Love it.
We opened a dictionary, and that's what we came up with. So we did that. No, it was basically members from the band and chorus department, and then there was we had a keyboard player, a drummer, a bass player, and we had a singer, and then myself who played guitar. And we played. Our singer was phenomenal. She was very talented. But we sang Paramore and Tsunami Bomb, stuff like that with female singers, and Twilight had just come out, I think, so Paramore was huge at the time. So I played a bunch of stuff in drop D, which I wasn't used to, so that was a whole new thing for me. Yeah, learned a lot from that. It was a lot of fun. We used to spend time after school practicing and playing. Learned a lot there about being in a band and working with other people. We only played one show. We played the talent show, and we got third place, which was a Subway gift card for $10. We all went and got cookies or something. But yeah, that was about it for that band. Everyone graduated and it kind of fell apart.
That's kind of like a Slipknot story. Hey guys, we won $10 and there's 6 members. Everybody gets $1.57. Good luck. I hope you figure it out along the way.
Yeah.
So you guys, everybody, school ends, and obviously you move on to do other things. Now, is the next thing in your journey directly Off Ki, or is there some other stuff that kind of happens before you found those guys?
No, there was actually a couple years in between there. Off Ki's a pretty recent thing, more or less. So yeah, after high school graduates, at this point, I love playing music, and playing guitar is really what I focus in on. And I had some friends who were not the greatest influence, so to speak. We spent a lot of time just hanging out with the devil's lettuce and whatnot.
Hey-o.
Yeah, right. Kids stay in school, and so I started rapping. I did a brief rap period where I rapped.
Okay, time out. Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about this. What's your rap name, or what was your...
Conzor. Conzor. C-O-N-Z-O-R.
Which
Conzor.
now everything makes all the sense in the world. I know where I've seen that before. I probably won't divulge that here unless you want a bunch of random friends.
Yeah.
But so tell me about that. You get into rap. How does that shake out? I feel like this is all happening in Appleton.
No. I moved to Appleton 3 years ago.
Okay, so where are you? I guess that was... See, I feel foolish now that I forgot this part of your story. Where is all this taking place?
Oh, I grew up in a small town called... I grew up in Francis Creek, if you're not from there, I guess. And I went to school in Mishicot, Wisconsin. That's where I graduated from high school. And then I got my associate's degree from the center, the UW Manitowoc extension there. I just got an associate's degree and then took a break and followed music, actually. But kind of a quick synopsis of my educational history. Yeah. So all of this is going on. I still live in that area, basically, right on the shoreline, more or less, of Lake Michigan over there.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so how does the raps, we didn't really get back to that because I tangented our way back to where we were in the story, not what was going on. So let's get back to this rapping stuff. You are again showing me how multifaceted you are with like every style of music. I'm waiting for you to tell me you secretly also play ragtime piano.
Not yet, actually.
I like that you said not yet. Like,
No, I love like swing and old school jazz and even blues. Honestly, I was doing trying to learn blues, but it's out of my realm.
you don't learn the blues, you feel the blues.
Exactly, that's the problem. I'm blue, but I can't play it, so it doesn't matter.
I gotcha.
Yeah. But yeah, no. So I'm living over there, and basically I was into like alternative musics, ska, punk rock, regular rock. I even liked some classical music, stuff like that. Pretty bland stuff by comparison, I guess, to what was popular, which was rap music. Everyone loved rap music, and I was just not into it. But I spent a lot of time hanging out in cars and whatnot, driving around. And so all my friends would show me the new rap songs and like check out the bass in this song. And I started to learn like what was appealing to it, why people liked it so much. There was, the catchy bass lines. It was like you said earlier, you don't play the blues, you feel it. That was the same thing with rap music. It was very much like, or hip hop, it was very much about you could dance to it. You could feel it. There was more to it than that. It wasn't so much about the message. It was more about the emotion, the deeper, that type of thing. Yeah. So we would listen to bass heavy rap and hip hop music. And, one day we were like, hey, let's try freestyling. These guys are doing it. Why can't we? Let's give it a shot. And it was a lot of fun. I had so much fun. I was honestly terrible at freestyling, the worst, but so much fun.
Doesn't matter as long as you're enjoying yourself.
Yeah. It was. We had a lot of good times freestyling. And my one buddy, his name was Dan Jansen. He has changed his rap name multiple times now, so I won't even divulge whatever it is. I don't think he raps anymore, but he was actually very talented at it, very good at like coming up with lyrics on the spot. He had interesting rhythms, vocal patterns, stuff like that. It was very, very good at it and very cool. It's a lot of fun to rap with him. He always showed me up, but it was worth it just to hear him, to be a part of that, kind of help facilitate him. And then he got me out of my shell, kind of, because at this point I was still pretty shy. I hadn't, played a lot. I hadn't played in a band other than that one show, and then like, high school band. So I didn't have a lot of performance experience. So, rapping with somebody and exchanging ideas, being more or less not vulnerable, but putting yourself out there, giving it your all in those instances was something new to me, and I learned a lot from that as well. So we decided to take it to the next level, sort of, and we stole some beats from the internet and recorded some songs. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's okay. So you record some songs. Do you release them to anyone?
No. I'm a small chance we might get sued because we basically ripped the tracks from like YouTube or something like that,
Totally understand that.
Yeah.
So you never officially performed these either?
Maybe at a drunken party or two, but otherwise.
Okay,
no.
well, hey, that counts. You're still getting everybody going. I get it. I understand. So out of the jaunt of rap, you're doing this kind of it seems like more for fun, and you're kind of learning to front and be in front of people and entertain.
Yeah.
What's the next twist in this story that kind of moves the chess piece a little bit closer to what's more current here?
Well, I moved out of my parents' house, and I was very poor. I finished my associate's degree, finished going to college, decided I wasn't going to pursue that anymore because I was poor.
Good on you.
And the job that I had, still work at Napa Auto Parts. And basically, the owner had bought a new business in Appleton, and he's like, "Hey, I just acquired this store, and because it went from being corporate to privately owned, I would like someone who knows the way that I run a store to go over there, and just kind of help smooth the transition, so to speak. Do you want to move to Appleton?" And I was like, "Well, being as how all this other stuff has just ended for me, and I'm quite poor, and this involves a pay raise, I am in. So I moved to Appleton.
Awesome. And did you kind of take over a managerial role of this Napa, or
Not so much. More of
advisor?
Advisor, employee relations type of thing, stuff like that.
Okay.
Just kind of like, hey, this is what's, interpret the different, management styles and stuff like that.
Awesome. So you're now in Appleton. You've relocated. That was kind of scary, I'm guessing. How far is Appleton from your hometown?
About an hour or so.
Okay,
it's not
so
that
not
far.
that terrible. Okay.
Small step, yep.
So you move a little further away from the home base, and it's your first time out in the real world, and you're working at Napa, and some dude says, "Hey, start a band with me." No, is that not how it happened?
Yeah, well, actually, that's pretty close to it. I had been recording some songs on my own under a different pseudonym. I'd been playing guitar for so long and not really done anything with it that I felt that it was time that, at the very least, I'm gonna write some songs, record them, put them out there, on Bandcamp or whatever, just get them out there, just for some self-validation, so I can, justify all this time I've invested in such a hobby that I enjoy so much. So I was doing that and working at Napa, and I got this great idea that I should have a mohawk, because that's what cool kids do.
Awesome.
And yeah, it was not awesome, actually. In hindsight, it was a terrible, terrible fashion statement, but I did it.
Why was it terrible? Mohawks are cool.
They're cool. I shaved it myself, so it kept, every time I would trim it, I would screw it up a little bit more, so it moved gradually up the back of my head until it was just like a patch on the top of my head. And it was just, it was not a good.
You were just like, damn, well, looks like I'm going to shave this off for a minute and reset.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. But yeah, no, I had that, and then Ryan stopped in. He worked at one of the shops in town, stopped in, and he was going to Riot Fest, so I talked to him about that, about punk rock, because I had gone a couple years before, and I couldn't go that year because I had to work. And so we talked about that, and he asked me to go to a Guttermouth show in Green Bay.
Just randomly?
Yeah, well, he saw I had a mohawk, and so we talked about punk rock, and he's like, hey, after we get back, I talked to him a few more times, and he's like, it's a Guttermouth show I'm going to go to in Green Bay. Do you want to go check it out? It was Guttermouth, the Jeffertons from Minneapolis, and one other band whose name escapes me right now. I can't remember. But yeah, so we went to that, and we're like, look at these guys. They're playing music out. It can't be that hard. Let's give it a shot. And the rest is history, more or less.
Well, more or less, let's fill it in. So you and Ryan, I think I have this down. Correct me if I'm wrong on the band's history. You and Ryan meet by way of Napa. He sees the mohawk. Cool. We should hang out and be friends. You do the Guttermouth show. You guys decide, fuck it, why don't we play music? He's already married to Angela, and Angela suggests that Alan plays the bass for you guys?
Yeah, there's a little bit in there. We so me and Ryan decided we were going to be in a band. Ryan and I decided we were going to be in a band, and we didn't have a practice space or a bass player. And this guy named Troy had both of those things. He could play bass and had a practice space. He lived down near Oshkosh and Fond du Lac somewhere. So we joined. He was the third member, and we started the band, and we practiced at his house. And we had a falling out with Troy right before our first show. Basically, he felt we weren't ready. We thought we were. And so he's like, well, I don't think we're ready. I'm going to leave the band, which is an acceptable decision. I can't argue with that. He did, however, call the venue and tell them not to book us, so that was a bit of a bummer.
Oh, so you guys didn't even get to go through with it, even if you would have found a replacement in time?
No, we did play the show. Actually, he just was kind of a dick about it.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah, so he did that, and we were like, well, now we're spiteful, so we have to play this show. So the show was still booked. She just had the owner had her reservations about it, and we got Alan, who was Angela's brother. He used to play the bass, so he joined the band and filled in for Troy. And in about a month, not even couple weeks, I think, he learned as many songs as he could, and we went and played our first show.
How did it go?
Well, it was in kind of a biker bar in the middle of nowhere.
Okay, let me tell you real quick. I want to tell the listener this because I know your story that you're about to tell me, and
Yeah.
that's why I goaded you into this. So please tell me in great detail because there's something that ties into what I've got going on musically in this story that I love. So please take it away. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, definitely. We so we get there, and we don't have enough original material. We've got, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes at most of originals, and we were supposed to play for like 2-3 hours, something ridiculous like that. We kind of were a bit overzealous in booking this show, but so we pulled together a bunch of cover songs, and we're like, it's a bar band, we'll be fine. So we pulled together a bunch of covers, and we get up there and we start doing our thing, and honestly, considering like all the last minute changes, it went pretty dang well. I was pretty pleased with the performance. We even brought a bunch of people, mostly family, but we had a decent crowd. And not even halfway through the show, the bar owner comes in after we finish a song and says that that she's calling it. That's it. There's no more. You guys are done playing, and she basically kicks us out. It turns out that the few people at the bar who happen to be bikers are very protective of their mothers, and we had just played Last Caress by the Misfits. Yep, and they did not take kindly to that, and said so, and that was the end of our first show.
So that's pretty legendary. I love that you got kicked out of a biker bar because you had to sing I've Got Something to Say, I Killed Your Baby Today, and then that you raped their mothers. You have big balls, my friend. Let me just tell you, to sing that to a bunch of bikers, I know because we've had this conversation as Walk Among Us where we go, okay, where the fuck are we playing? Is this all ages? What songs can't we play? Okay, good. We can't say Bullet because we don't want to talk about masturbation. Got it. Okay, great. We don't want to do Last Caress because we don't want to talk about raping somebody's mom. Cool. Okay, we're in it to win it. What else can't we do? Okay, good. Which is hard. It's difficult to censor yourself. So I love that you guys were just so badass and just like, no, we got this. We'll sing fucking raping your mothers right to your faces.
Right to their faces. We went through with it, and it was a little bit of being naive, in all honesty. But yeah, no, it was good. It was a lot of fun. I had a great time, minus being canceled basically halfway through the show and all that. That was a bit disheartening. But we pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps and booked more shows and kept going.
You guys definitely live by the moniker of there'll always be another show, which I think that some bands get stuck on. They think that one show is going to make or break their quote-unquote success. And it doesn't matter. Literally, you have to just play shows, as many shows as you can. I thought that we played a lot of shows. And then you guys posted the other day, and you're going to have to give me some exact number on this because I'm going to probably fuck it up. You've done like 90 shows or something, close to 90 shows already?
Yeah, we played... okay, so we played at the Lyric Room in Green Bay. We opened up for Something to Do in Mustard Plug, which was a huge show. It was fantastic. Had a ton of fun. So much respect for those guys. Being a ska fan especially, that was a really great show for me to play. And that was our 80th show, I want to say. I guess I don't keep as good a track as I should either. But I think that was our 80th show, and then we've played a couple shows since then. So, yeah, we're getting pretty dang close to 90.
Wow. Oh, so you guys might... this year's almost up. I'm guessing you don't have 20 shows booked for the month of December.
No, we do not. Actually, December is a little thin. I think we only have 2, maybe 3 shows.
Same. We've only got 2. It's hard because it's the holidays and whatnot, you know?
It's the holidays, and last winter we booked so many shows this time of year that it was just too much. We need a little bit of a break finally.
It's hard too because you guys are in more of a snow terrain, and I'm sure that snow to you guys is like snow to Canadians. It's just a part of life, but I feel like still though it definitely makes travel way more stressful when you've got to go. Okay, we've got to leave now 2 hours early because it's snowing. Great, you know.
Yeah, no, that it really affects things. We played a couple shows. We played last New Year's in Escanaba, Michigan, which was quite the haul.
Is that Upper Peninsula?
It sure is. It sure is. Yeah. Yeah, it was an experience. No, Escanaba is a nice place. We didn't have a great turnout for that show.
Was it
being New Year's?
Basically, the weather kind of deterred people?
Yeah, I think it was kind of the weather. It snowed a bunch that day, and it was New Year's. We played at a smaller bar up there. Honestly, it was just most people were like at the casino. Honest, that's what was packed. The casino.
You were like, that's where I would have been.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, I would have actually, I stayed there that night, but I had to be at the show, so I didn't even get to gamble. Not that I'm much of a gambler, but
yeah, gambling's not that fun. Kinda. I know. I used to deal cards, so.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I'm actually, crazily enough, this episode drops today, I'm actually going back to that industry as a private blackjack dealer. I'll be doing private events, which is a whole different world. I'm totally terrified, but I'm sure it'll be easy. But yes, I know all about the gambling world. But this is not about me today, Connor. This is all about you. So we're going to move into some questions I have regarding your musical journey, about what you've been doing with Auf Ki. You've played a lot of shows. You just said that.
Yeah.
82 or 83 shows, we'll say. It's
Sure.
more than a handful. You have good memories. You have great memories. You have bad memories. Let's talk about what's the worst show experience you have had where you were just like, man, if I didn't love music so much right now, this is it. Like, why did we do this to ourselves?
Ooh, that's tough. We've played a lot of shows, so there's been some, like you said, some good ones, some bad ones, some worse ones. One of the most disheartening shows for me personally was we played. It was up in. Honestly, it was up in the UP again at the same place we played New Year's. It was a different show that we had played there, and there were so few people there, and there was just this one lady, and she just kept shouting, do you guys know any Green Day? Just over and over again. And then when we refused to play Green Day because, well, we didn't refuse, but it was like that wasn't in our set. At that point, rocking out, and she insisted that I get off stage to go home and kill myself. So that was pretty interesting. Yeah, she was pretty hammered, and I mean, not that that's an excuse, but yeah, it was that was a little bit discouraging, and with the lack of turnout, and I mean, we've had not disheartened, but fans that are abrasive to say the least, and that just happens. That's playing shows. You meet them. I'm sure you've met a few of them who didn't care.
Oh, yeah, I almost fought a Nazi, bro.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think I've told that story.
That's a story you're going to have to tell me.
Okay, well,
maybe. Yeah.
I'll tell you right now. It's fine. It's not a big deal. It's super quick, kind of. So we played Friday the 13th in Fort Wayne, Indiana, with the Jasons and the Lurking Corpses and Mumula. They're all great. You guys should check them out. We're on stage. We opened the show. We did not have our bass player, Rob. We were just Sarah, Veronica, and I as a three-piece. We are playing our set as we do. We get to Violent World, and as I'm sure you've heard me proclaim before, I think you were at one of the other shows where we proclaimed this, fuck Nazis. Said it here first. If you're a Nazi, fuck you and you're Nazi, because I don't put up with that bullshit. This is my country, not your crazy bullshit that thinks that the 40s happened and you guys won. It didn't go down like that. You were soundly defeated. So anyways, I'm like, hey, what's up, Fort Wayne? This next one's about beating the fuck out of Nazis. And if you're a Nazi, fuck you too. And I just went into the song, kicked its ass, done. We play the whole set. It's great. Now, here's the part that's crazy. This bar we're playing at is sold out. It's packed, and we can't get our gear through the front door or the side door. It's a nightmare. And we have to hurry up and get off stage, and there's only 3 of us. So we're just like booking and cooking, and I start taking stuff out to the truck. And all of a sudden, there's this really kind of large, taller, like 56-year-old dude behind me. And he goes, hey. And I'm like, what's up? He's like, I really liked your band. I really liked it. And then he goes, but motherfucker. And I'm like, oh, God, what is this going to be? Like, come on. But motherfucker
really
is...
protective of his mother.
Like... Exactly. Are you protective of your mom? I don't even think... Maybe Last Caress was on that set. I digress because I can't remember. But
yeah,
I'm like, okay, what? And he's like, I'm a fucking white nationalist. Fuck you. You got a problem with me? And I was like, excuse me? And he's like, you got a fucking problem with me? And I was like, you're a what? A Nazi? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, you're a 58-year-old Nazi. Fuck you, bro. The United States of America. And guess what? I'm going to say that to your face, and you're not going to fucking touch me, because I was just on stage. And everybody knows I'm here, so what are you going to do? And this dude just creeped on me all night. He didn't do anything, obviously, because he's a fucking pansy. But he was like, tried to like sneak into this like part, and I was certain he was going to jump me, and he didn't, because he's a fucking coward ass. But I digress. That was me almost fighting a Nazi. I stood my ground, because that's what you do with a Nazi. And one of the closing things I said to him, I was like, what is your deal, bro? Aren't you supposed to be a fucking adult? Like, you're 58 years old. You're a grown-ass man. What are you doing? I'm 30. Why are you trying to fight me right now? What are you getting out of this?
You think you would have learned some perspective by 58 years old, but I guess not.
No, he's got that giant Nazi pineapple stuck up his ass. If you've seen Little Nicky. Anyways, let's get back to you and what's going on with Auf Ki. We talked about one of your worst memories and a lady telling you she wanted you to kill yourself, which please don't. Not down with that. But on the flip side, there has to be like the pinnacle moment, everybody, the show that everything else stacks up to, that you performed at, that's something so unforgettable that nothing can top it, or at least you're hoping that something will come along eventually to top it, but that it's just, that's your opus is right now we hit this level. What's that moment for you?
Honestly, that the show we just played with Mustard Plug in Green Bay was huge. That was a big step for us, I think, and I that was, to date, that's probably one of our best shows. We played fantastically. It was so much fun. All the other bands were great. It was like a packed house. It was a really good time. So that was probably one of the top moments to date. But as far as like the most hopeful moment, I suppose, was it must have been last winter or so. Counterpunch, I think they're from Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. They someone had broken in and stolen a bunch of their gear. They're a fantastic band. I love Counterpunch, and so when we had heard this, we're like, oh, they're hurt, and we should do something to help them out. Also, they had more notoriety than we still do, so we're like, hey, if we can piggyback off their misfortune, and it's a twofer. So we invited them up to Green Bay, and we put on like a benefit show for them, and we gave them all the proceeds and everything to kind of help them get back on their feet again after that had happened. But they're kind of a big name around here as well, a lot of fans, so they had a huge draw, and we were still a relatively new band at that point. So their draw really kind of, we opened for them, obviously, and everyone was there to see Counterpunch and not us, but they were still there, and that was such a reassuring, kind of the affirmation. We had spent so much time up until this point, playing in small bars or outside venues or wherever we could, basically, and then to have that moment, where there's all those people there and they were enjoying it, they were rocking out and having a good time. That was probably one of the top moments for me.
Well, that's awesome, because you, as you said, you did a nice thing. You also had an opportunity to kind of get the rub. I always call that the rub, You're just like, it's the right place, right time. You're helping somebody out, sure, but they're also by way of helping you out also. So it's nice, somebody doing something for someone else. I will say there's an interesting memory I have with your guys' band. The middle of the 3 shows we've played together, because unfortunately, being in a band, I don't get to really go see other bands unless they're playing with me.
Play with them. Mm-hmm.
So, and you know that.
Yeah.
So, seeing you guys the second time, you started what I would consider one of the most dangerous moshes I've ever seen. Do you recall?
The most dangerous? No, I do not.
You guys we were at the local, and you were on the side stage, and there were people moshing, but it was such close quarters in there. This lady was like, I thought she was grinding on me for a second, but I think she was just trying to get through and couldn't. I'm not really sure. It was it was just wild to me, because I was like, God, I would love to see you guys in a packed show with the energy of the crowd feeling your songs, because you guys do write really awesome songs. And now to talk about those awesome songs, let's talk about this album and some of the work that goes into it, the decision to put these songs down. Some of these songs I think you probably put a lot of work into, so we can maybe focus more on the ones you had your hands the most in. But let's get down to this. You guys released this earlier this year, I think, middle of the year, July maybe?
No, before that, actually. I think it was April, around April.
It was right after we played with you guys. Okay, the first time.
Yep.
So that's why I didn't... Okay, so that all makes sense now. So let's get into it. You guys decide in 2016, we have enough songs. Let's go do this. Where did you record? What was that experience like? This was, I'm guessing, your first time actually recording.
Yeah, no, it was a phenomenal experience. We went to the bomb shelter in Chicago. Dan Precision, he's a founding member of Rise Against, the guitar player for 88 Fingers Louie. They're back out touring again. He's in a ton of other bands. A hero of mine, honestly. I was a huge 88 Fingers Louie fan. And, you know, great guy, super helpful. I highly recommend, seriously, if you guys need to record, if you want like a quality recording, tons of knowledge and know-how, you know, very understanding and helpful. The bomb shelter, he's, you know, it's reasonable, and the experience and expertise we got alone was worth the money we paid to record. Plus we got the sweet, amazing sounding album on top of it. You know, I cannot endorse him enough. So we went down to Chicago. We took off 10 days of work, 2 weekends in the week, and went and recorded the album.
You guys just stayed in Chicago for 10 days straight?
Yep, we sure did.
How was that experience? Just hanging out in the city, or was it mostly time spent at the studio? Did you guys have a clear plan for the songs that were going to be on the album because you've played it out enough together that you knew what you were doing, or were there some songs maybe that didn't make the record that you wish did?
We did a lot of thinking. We tried to be as prepared as possible because we wanted to record the whole album in the amount of time that we had, because we had used all our time up. We couldn't go back after that, more or less, for a while, so we wanted to get it all done in one. So we tried to figure out, we had a list of songs we drew from a hat. Honestly, we put all our songs in there. We picked the top ones that we knew we wanted on the album, and then the other ones we randomly selected, I suppose. And then we, kind of polished them off afterwards to make them good enough for the album. And then, we went down there and we had a list from most important to least important for the album. And then we ended up making through all of it, but 2 songs didn't make the album because we didn't have enough time, basically. And they'll go on the next album, I assume. I guess we've been talking about that. That'll be in the future. So we went down there. We had songs laid out. And we got there and kind of just wung it from there. We didn't really know a lot what we were doing. We had talked to Dan on the phone a few times, and he kind of laid out the recording process for us. What would happen, drum tracks, all that type of thing, scratch tracks, the order, that's.
And that's all she wrote for the album itself. It's pretty cut and paste once you get into the recording process and how it all works. Of the songs that you guys did, there's a couple things I want to note here. 1061, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is that intro riff MXC?
It's not supposed to be, if it is.
Do you know what Most Extreme Elimination Challenge was? Did you ever watch that show?
Oh, yeah, with the overdubbed English, yes.
Yes, if you listen, those riffs are kind of close. They're not identical, but I was like, oh my gosh, I hope this is a beautiful homage to that, because, yes.
I didn't even think about that, but that is fantastic.
It is. It's really great. I was nerding out super hard after that show, and I was listening to the album on the drive home. I was like, oh my god, it's MXC, this is great. And I figured I had to ask you that. Next thing I want to talk about real quick, the song Razor Burn. You guys do some cool vocal trade-offs. Ryan was doing drums when this album was recorded. You guys didn't yet have Logan. Mm-hmm. So he was singing from the drums, or was this something you guys decided to do the trade-off when you were in the studio?
No, he would sing from the drums. We had originally we had a mic set up for him. which proved to be a hassle to say the least. Just trying to drum around, having, I'm sure you're familiar with a mic stand in your face. It's not it's just not easy. So he got a headset and he used that for a while. And then he started singing on some more songs, which was part of the reason that we had him move off of drums, was just because he was doing more, and it just wasn't a good fit. It was, too much for him between vocals and drumming all at once, and we wanted him to focus on one or the other, kind of. So he would do it while drumming, and obviously not recording. He's just singing it, but yeah.
Well, okay. So that answers that question. I just love the dynamic that you guys bounce the vocals off there. Obviously the song that got me to decide that I had to buy the album, because I just wanted to make sure I was hearing what you guys were singing correctly. Being partially deaf affects me. So I bought the album on the strength of one song. Not that your guys' live show wasn't great, but the one song that made me like, I have to hear it. I have to have this with me at points, was Workin' Jerk. That chorus is, I have to know, is there any truth to that song? Where does the concept for this song come up from? I feel like you're not wrong. There are people who do, and I'm not saying whether or not I have or have not participated in that, but the concept of the song is just so clever. I'm so curious where it actually spawned from.
Yeah. I didn't actually write that song. Now I can't confirm or deny if I've participated in that or anything. But I didn't write that song. Ryan wrote that song about when I first met him, he worked at that shop who dealt with Napa, and a lot of the other employees that he worked with would go to the bathroom for like 15-20 minutes at a time. They would just disappear in there, and they wouldn't take their phones with them, or like you'd walk past and they weren't talking on the phone. Eventually he figured out that they were not in the bathroom using the bathroom in its traditional sense by any means. So he wrote the song kind of about their experience with the bathroom and how that went from their perspective.
Okay, so I appreciate that song even more now, because it's kind of making fun of the whole thing. But let's go to the album. I have it. It's in my hand right now. Which of these songs are quote unquote your babies? The ones that you wrote, you put the most effort into, so we can kind of dive into those further.
Okay. All right. Well, at this time, this is before we had Logan. So the whole album, basically, most of the music is arranged by me. More or less. Not Ryan wrote a few of them. I got to look at the album here because I don't even know the track listing, even though I play this so often. Yeah, you'd expect me to have learned it by now, but 1061 was kind of at this point was the highlight of my writing. When we started playing and went to record the album, I've since wrote more songs, obviously, but that was really the top notch for me. There, the On was one of our earliest songs. I wrote that one. What else? Laundromat is mine. That one is very wordy. I always thought that it needed more musically, but the lack of music kind of emphasizes the words and everything, and it's got a certain dynamic to it that I think is really cool. Werewolf, that's a pretty cut and dry punk rock song. And Blue and Protest Song are the ones that I put the most in and that I wrote all the words for.
Man, these are all great songs, honestly. Now, the thing about my show is I get to do whatever the fuck I want, Connor. So at the end of this thing, whatever song you want us to play, we're going to play it from the album here. I feel like people really need to get their hands on this. Where can they hear some of the album if they're looking to check it out? You guys have a Bandcamp, I assume?
Yeah, no, definitely. Actually, we're pretty much everywhere on the interweb. You can find us if you've got a Spotify. We're on YouTube. Yep, we have a Bandcamp. You can find some of our stuff might be on Facebook. There's live videos there. There's some live videos on YouTube too. We have a Twitter. I'm trying to think of where else. Pretty much anywhere you can stream music, you should be able to find us.
Okay. And all at Auf Ki, which is AUFKI, folks. Don't go OFFKI. Pech-Kortbein because you will not find them. I promise.
No. But if you spell it right, we are pretty much the only thing that comes up. So.
Well, that's good. That means that no one can fuck it up. I love your guys' logo. Did you design that? Who designed that?
That was actually my brother. He was used to be super into like stencils and tagging and stuff like that. He was much more graphically gifted than I ever was. And that was one of his stencils. And when we started playing shows, we're like, we need a logo. I was like, I know a guy, so I went and talked to him about it, and he's like, well, I've got this badass shark stencil, and he gave me a bunch of options of things, and I saw the shark, and Ryan is a huge fan of Jaws, and I fell in love with that stencil as soon as I saw it. We actually all have matching Auf Ki tattoos with the shark.
That's incredible. Even Logan?
Not Logan. No, not yet. Anyway, let's see if we can talk him into it yet.
You should make him get it on his butt cheek.
On his butt.
Because he's the new guy, haze him in that sense. Don't go too crazy, but I want to say this. One of my other favorite things about your album, not a lot of people talk about liner notes, but I'm a nerd, so I read everybody's liner notes, thank yous and whatnot. I'm going to read yours word for word because it's just hilarious how you wrote it. So you said... Man, I'd like to thank you for purchasing this album and also for taking the extra time to read all the small text stuffed between the cover and the CD. Just that alone nailed it. Just home run. And you said, I'd like to also thank my family for being generally hip, cool cats. Thanks to Ryan and Alan for making Auf Ki worth it and to Angela for making it happen. Thanks to all of my favorite musicians and bands for blazing the trail so I can stumble down it. Catch you on the flip side, Connor. I love it. I love it. I love how genuine you are. This album is great. Your band is great, Connor. Thank you so much, man, for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. I had a great time, obviously. I always appreciate it because I was super into vinyl and stuff, so I always wanted like the liner notes. Most people don't read them, so it doesn't really matter what you put in there. But taking the extra time to go that far to purchasing the album and then enjoying it thoroughly, I always thought that meant something special to the fans.
I'm a graphic design nerd too, so I just look at your guys' stuff and I'm just like, this is so well done. The back cover is so well done. It's just. I'm not trying to sell people on your album, but I'm totally trying to sell them on your album because it's genuinely one of my favorite things I've been checking out in 2017. And I feel like if you like punk, if you like pop punk, if you like a new thing in music that just doesn't necessarily follow all the rules, Auf Ki is the way to go. As always on the Voice of Survival podcast, before we ever leave a show, I always have to ask this question. Connor, I did this interview today. And I feel like I maybe could have done more, I maybe could have done less, but is there anything that we didn't touch on today that is important to you in your musical journey that you would like to fill us in on before we commence the end of the episode?
Nothing too particular. I just, I'd like to thank everyone who's seen us play and bought the album and listened to us, and I encourage everyone, check us out, come hang out with us at shows. We're going to be around. So just and thank you to you as well, Nate. I mean, for having me on the show and playing with us. I'm a huge fan of your band as well. Walk Among Us, we've played some shows with you guys. You put on a phenomenal show.
I appreciate
it's just been a great time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You didn't have to say that on the show today, but I do appreciate those kind words. You guys are great to play with. You're like our tour buddies now. We love seeing you and stopping in and catching up and doing a show and riffing on the chilly streets of Chicago in the middle of October. This was the strangest thing ever because, so we played with you guys at the local. We set the show up. We needed one band, and you guys ended up being the other band. And then we had one band drop off, so it's like an even smaller show. Mm-hmm. But I have never in my life, as a Cubs fan, rooted against the Cubs so hard as this year. Because, let me tell you, you thought we had just an okay time and it wasn't too crazy. Had the Cubs been in the World Series this year, Game 3 was the night of that show in Chicago.
Yeah, I had heard that, and I'm not a huge baseball fan to begin with, but I was following up until there to find out what the deal was going to be because we haul all of our gear in a trailer. So like, we're thinking of like parking, trying to find a spot for that anywhere near the venue. Like, oh,
Yeah, like, okay, well, let's walk our gear for 35 minutes. Not fun. So, yeah, it was just like, I was like, okay, Cubs, I love you guys, and you guys won last year, but let last year be last year. Like, you don't
Give
have to
somebody
take it
else a
all. Give it to Houston. They haven't won one yet, and then, of course, they did. So, that's awesome, but I think that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Voice of Survival podcast. Connor, what song are we playing at the end of this thing to take us home?
oh, that's a tough decision. But I'm gonna go with 1061. It's the first song off the album. It kind of gets you into it. This is what Auf Ki's kind of all about to a certain extent. Gets you ready for it. So that's my request, I guess.
Awesome, and you filled everybody in on where they can check out Auf Ki on all the different social medias and whatnot on the interwebs. I'll fill everybody in for the Voice of Survival podcast. If you want me on any of the social media sites, Instagram, it's at the Voice of Survival podcast. On Facebook, the same. On Twitter, I think I'm just Voice of Survival. And as always, you can check out the Journey into Comics network at journeyintocomics.com. You get a total of 10 different shows there. You can find us on all the different podcasting platforms, whether it's iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music, Overcast, Downcast, Podcast Chaser, Podcast Addict. There are so many ways to listen to podcasts nowadays. And folks, spoiler alert, in the very near future, you will be able to find Journey into Comics Network, the Voice of Survival, and all of our shows on Spotify. We are in the process of doing that right now, and as soon as that news is official, we will be filling you guys in, so you can just subscribe there and just get us at the ready wherever you want, whether it's on your PlayStation 4 or Xbox One or whatever the hell has Spotify. It's the modern era, and I'm so excited. That's going to do it this week, folks. Connor, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a pleasure to have you and to talk about Auf Ki, your musical journey, everything in between. I feel like you are a very well-versed musician and a very diverse musician because you know so many different styles and you've dipped your toes in so many different things and you have an open mind, which is always great to have in music. So thank you so much for coming on to the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Anytime. I had a great time. It was great talking with you, catching up.
Hey, absolutely, man. Anytime. We're always here to chat, and now that you've done the podcasting thing like this once, we can have you pretty much anytime on anything you ever feel like doing. So I'm glad to keep this open for you.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Hey, no problem. All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Voice of Survival podcast. I've been your host, Nate. Stay strong out there. Don't let anybody push you around. Fuck Nazis. And ladies and gentlemen,
Nazis.
This is Auf Ki with 1061.